Hi, everybody. My name is Larry Williams. I'm with Unlock Health. I lead our senior living strategy with all things marketing services, and we have a really fun conversation prepared today. So, I have my friends with KJB Sales Consulting as well as Senior Source Consulting Group, and we have a lot of good things to discuss. And I'm happy that I got to get this group together, and so they can really highlight what they're working on, what they're excited about, and really take the conversation so others can hear. So before we go any further, I want to make sure we highlight who all is in this conversation. We have Libby Lauer. She is the co-founder and COO of Senior Source Consulting Group. We also have Amy McKinley, the co-founder and CEO of Senior Source Consulting Group. We have Bridget Speck. She's the Chief Growth Officer and founder of KJB Sales Consulting. And then Kaylee Myers, who's the founder, Chief Vision Officer of KJB Sales Consulting. And then Jess Falk, the founder and Chief Education and Curiosity Officer at KJB Sales Consulting. So those are a lot of really fun titles, and I'm excited to connect with you all and really learn what all you're working on and connect these dots. So before we go any further, I just want to make sure everyone knows what your organizations do and what you deliver to senior living operators. And Amy, I'm going to start with you if that's okay.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So Libby and I always we don't really joke about it, but we get a lot of eyes widening when we answer that question. What does Senior Source Consulting Group do? We answer questions for our clients. That's what we do every single day. We provide that essential qualitative data research that helps our clients answer questions, those important questions, kind of be able to figure out where and how to allocate important resources and make very important decisions for their business and to grow occupancy and revenue and all of those things. So keeps us very busy answering questions.
Yeah.
So, Kelly, you want to go?
Yeah, thanks. I was going to say, it's funny. I think our organization does a lot of asking of questions to our clients. And so see right there already synergy. Our primary focus is helping organizations improve their occupancy, their revenue by helping their teams communicate differently and thinking through how do you do better discovery? How can you be a better listener? How can we get better follow-up? How can we do better business development? And how can we ensure, right, that our sales teams understand the emotional readiness that families need to go through in order to make such a tough buying decision? I think, in the world today where senior living differentiation can be really hard to spot, I think where organizations have control is under that sort of thought process behind resident experience, customer experience. And that's one of the things that I think that we are most passionate about at KJB.
That's great. I appreciate you both sharing that. I kind of want to transition where we are right now, just because we had this conversation before we hit the record button, which is, what does your typical day, typical week look like? I'm really curious to see what that looks like for you all, just because you're handling a lot of different questions and a lot of tasks and helping a variety of ways. So I'd love to hear more about what does like that typical day or week look like for your organizations.
I think when we first discussed that question, Libby and I were saying, oh my gosh, that is completely overwhelming. And I don't know how I can ever possibly answer that question. But as I think through a typical day or a typical week, it could really, it could be anything. Mostly I'm talking with clients, helping them kind of find that path to answering those important questions that they have. So say, for instance, they're considering an acquisition. They want to have that data, that research that's going to help them understand not only, hey, is this a good acquisition to make happen, and then how can that operator really hit the ground running in that market to make sure that they're meeting all the goals as quickly as they can. So we might be having conversations around that. We might be having conversations with the client about a piece of land that they have and what do they need to do with it. And I mean, like, specifically, what do they want to do with it? What do they need to build? What finishes? What are the apartment sizes and the pricing and all of those things? So we're kind of figuring out how we can serve them to be able to get to that end result. And, you know, what that looks like. So I'm kind of talking with them, putting together a plan, you know, writing a proposal, you know, communicating with them to finalize that project. You know, I might be talking to a client about occupancy and a community that might not be meeting their full potential, and how can we get them there? Or even if they're sitting at 93%, how can we get them to 98%? All of those types of conversations. I might be paying our amazing shoppers. I might be, you know, oh my gosh, checking on invoices. I mean, there could be a ton of things that I'm doing. And Libby, you know, certainly has very diverse days every day as well. So, Libby, you want to talk about some of the things that you have to do every day?
Yeah, well, it's, you know, it's interesting because I love my people on LinkedIn, right? So I love to just put things out there that I feel will be interesting or meaningful to someone. We sort of long time ago came up with this idea that if I do, or if we do research for ourselves, like if we're curious about something, like, hey, what's going on in this market? Or hey, what kind of benchmarks are pointing to ABC? If I do the research for myself, then I put it out there. And I figure if I find it interesting, I hope other people find it interesting. And I do get a lot of folks that comment on what I post on LinkedIn. So I hope I continue to find things that people find interesting. But, you know, from a quality perspective, you know, one of our clients called us recently like boutique and high touch. And so we like to make sure that each one of our projects that gets turned in has been touched by my level of experience, Amy's level of experience, in addition to our shoppers. So I'm always like reading through the reports, if it's a referral source mystery shop, if it's an enhanced online analysis, if it's an in-person mystery shop, just to make sure we've really connected all the dots. So I do kind of spend a lot of time just putting on these finishing touches just to make sure we have really captured a 360-degree view of any project that we put our hands on, because it's a representative of what we believe would be helpful to the client.
And I 100% believe that what Libby does with those reports and to support our team and shoppers is why we continue to have success. It's incredible. I have never met a least lazy person. I mean, am I saying that right? She does not rest. I mean, and you talk about curious. Her curiosity is what drives our quality. And
thank you.
It's nonstop. It's through the weekend. It's in the evening. It's, you know, hey, what about this? You know, what about this? Let's think about this, or we could talk about this, or add this, or, you know, and it is truly turning that cube and looking at things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I just want to take a nap.
Well, real quick, Amy, I'm going to echo that because I'll get an email from Libby at 9:30 at night. Hey, look at this website. Do you like this? Like, do you think that their call to action could be better? I don't like this part of it. What would you do differently? And so, like, going back into like just digging into things that you find interesting, I think that's really important, especially as, you know, the world of senior living continues to evolve. We need to continue to evolve with it and just really look at it from a different perspective and not the way it's always been. And that's one thing I appreciate about this group. And I highlighted that when I got to hang out with Bridget at the Senior Housing News Sales and Marketing Conference, I just got to learn at breakfast for a solid 25 minutes. I felt like I should have been taking notes through all of it. But again, it's really understanding the bigger picture, but also really understand what's working, what's not, knowing that's going to continue to move. So thank you for highlighting that, Amy, and really explaining what all y'all do. Now, I'm curious about on the KJB Sales Consulting Group, what does the average day or week look like for you all?
Yeah, I'll take that one. It's not average. So it's anything but average. On a Monday, we could be in a market guiding a new sales director on business development. We could be coaching them on business development in the market. We could be onboarding a new person, maybe for a home care company, perhaps. On Tuesday, we could be writing or developing a brand new virtual sales program for somebody in the UK. On Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we could be flying to California to go be fractional leaders for a company that might need some support out there. It really just depends. Kelly could be writing a book, be developing some kind of really fun training. So it just really depends on what any given day is. So for us, it's a little bit of everything. It's fractional leadership, it's sales coaching, it's sales training. It's anything really. Jess, Kelly, you want to add to that?
Bridge, I was just going to add, one of the things that we learned when we first came out of being in operational sales is teams just don't have the time to stop and think and plan. It's a 24/7 business. You're waking up to 10 emails. You're going to bed to 20. There's not a lot of time for how can we strategically think ahead to be more effective, right? Instead of just doing the same thing over and over again every day. So we have the luxury in what we do now to sit with each other and say, this is how the industry has done it since the 90s, because we were there. And how can we be different now? Like, how can discovery look different? How do we close without using closing tacky techniques, right? That it happens organically. So we get the luxury of doing that and then sharing that with our customers as well. So that's one of the things I think brings value as well.
Yeah. It's funny. I was looking at my schedule today, and Larry, as you asked that question, I was thinking to myself, how lucky we are to get to interact with so many different organizations, people at different levels. And so, just today I have 2 coaching sessions with 2 community-based sellers where we'll go through and we'll do lead reviews and we'll plan really great curiosity-driven questions. I have an executive mentor session right after that I'll do with a senior vice president of an organization. And then later today, Jess, Bridget, and I are going over an outline of a new training that we built for actually a non-senior living customer. And so it is, there's a lot of fun with that, I think. Something that I wasn't really thinking about when we kicked this off, but to be able to get to talk to the folks that are actually talking to prospective residents, getting to work with the people who are leading those teams, and getting to, work with senior living adjacent customers, it really allows us, right, to stretch and grow every day. So it's, every day is different.
Yeah.
I love that. And one thing I really appreciate is the fact that you get to see things from different perspectives. In that sometimes I think when we're in our own business, sometimes we're, really working on the business and we're too far into it. And so to be able to pull from different perspectives and I think leverage those insights that's going to help across the board makes a big difference. And I can only imagine how that's really helping your client base and just really helping us as we continue to skate to where that puck is going. And so thank you for that perspective. And I think the one common theme was that every day is different. And yes, it can be challenging, but at the same time, it makes every day really impactful. And you feel like you're doing something that's really meaningful. And I think that's when it's all said and done, that's all we can, really hope for is to really have meaning in what we do. And you're definitely doing that. Now we're all here together, and there's a word that I'm not sure how much we've used it so far, which is partnership. And so I'm excited for us to really talk about that and why this group is here and having this conversation. And Amy, I'm going to kind of go back to you on that front to really explain, what the next steps of, this group coming together and continue to really leverage those insights and resources to help the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can talk a little bit about kind of how this came about, if you want me to start there.
Please, that'd be great.
Okay. So, Kelly and I actually met a while ago at Senior Source. We had done some mystery shopping for Sunrise. And so once we submitted those reports, we had an opportunity to get on calls with Kelly and her team and debrief the results of those shops and share our insights about some potential next steps and just kind of brainstorm the shops from that perspective. That all went really well. I mean, as I believe that we had actually been hired by the investment company, the REIT. So that can always be kind of a touchy situation. We absolutely understand that dynamic between the investor and the operator and do whatever we can to kind of foster those relationships. So I think we got along really well on those calls. And then I moderated a session at a Smash conference a couple years ago, and Kelly was one of the esteemed panel members. And so we actually, through all those practice sessions and while we were at the conference, had a chance to get to know each other. And I just really appreciated KJB's approach to sales coaching and training. I felt like we were definitely in line in terms of our philosophies and that drive, and how curiosity can drive quality and in sales or whatever you do. And as Libby and I were just getting busier and busier and getting involved earlier and earlier in projects for our clients, just being engaged more on like the mystery shop and research side, we found that the coaching that we were doing, we were having a hard time keeping up with that and a hard time kind of promoting that side of our business. And we had always said from the beginning, anything that we do, we want to be able to do really well. And we want to be able to do it maybe even better and different than other companies, our competitors. And it was just becoming very obvious that we just did not have the time to do it. But I'd say close to every mystery shop that we do indicates there is some need for some additional coaching, some support to that sales team, anything that we can do to kind of shine a light on how a company can better support a salesperson. We're going to speak to that. And so if we're not going to provide that, we needed to have a partner that could provide that. So as Libby and I were talking about all the different options in senior housing or companies serving senior living in that way, we just kept coming back to KJB. And so it was basically a call to Kelly to say, hey, here's kind of what we're thinking. What do you think? Could this work? And I think, again, that conversation went really well. And she was like, yeah. We do a little bit of mystery shopping, but we really don't have the time or the we're not really inclined to do that. We would love to talk about this further. So that's kind of, I don't know, Kelly, if you have something to add to that, but that's kind of how it all came about.
Yeah, I love this, by the way. It's like this Venn diagram where it came together, and it's like the best of both worlds. And one thing before I, really get Kelly's input is really the resources we have with amongst this community. And so we not only help by providing, assurance and guidance, but when it gets a little bit, let's say out of your lane, but once you get to that point where you can bring in somebody else, you have the right partner. And I think that's what this is all about, is having the right resources that you feel confident that they can take it to that next level. So that's incredible. Amy, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great point, Larry, because when we go to conferences, I'd say at least 75% of the pleasure of being at conferences is getting to know all of the other vendor partners in the room and understanding what they do better so that then we can recommend them or serve our clients better through their talents and expertise, because we don't have a talent or an expertise in every area, that is going to fulfill a client's need. So we have very often within our mystery shop reports made recommendations through in what we call our bright ideas. That's kind of like the low-hanging fruit. It's like the solving of a problem or solving of an issue that has come about as part of the research. And so we very often make recommendations to different companies, and we would often recommend additional coaching that, oh, Senior Source could help with that. But we feel like having this partner that's kind of a third party gives us that ability to even be more direct with that recommendation, that
And,
we're not,
confident, right?
and confident, yeah, and confident they can follow through and react quickly to that need. And it's not as heavy-handed, because we're not gaining necessarily anything from it except for knowing that we're giving our client more to work with and more of an opportunity to be successful. So, and our name is Senior Source Consulting. So we've always sort of leaned into that word source. And we have more and more clients that are coming to us and saying, hey, do you know anybody that does this or do this? And so this just fits really, really well.
That's incredible. Love that. And again, I go back to what that intention is, and it goes back to how y'all started off, which is just answering questions. And if your intention is to help, that's going to come across. And I think this is what this group does. You just want to be a resource for this community. So kudos on that. Kayla, I'm curious to hear from your side in the KJB consulting side of how this partnership, as it formed, and how you leaned into the mystery shopping side of this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is, it's a rare experience, I think, where prior to becoming partners, that you actually have an opportunity to be the customer. And that was the situation that we were in, right? When the owner group had wanted Senior Source Consulting Group to do some mystery shops for us so we could better understand, kind of what was going on. We all know explaining pricing in senior living is really difficult. It's a touchy area, but we really wanted to make sure, right, that our teams were comfortable discussing that in a really transparent way. It was, listen, I don't think any leader is super stoked when someone says, hey, we got somebody coming in, they're going to mystery shop like 70 of your communities. Good luck. That I wasn't super stoked. But I'm like, oh no, but what's going to happen? They better do what we asked them to do. But honestly, the experience of doing it, having a thoughtful company, really fair company, extremely thorough company, deliver the results that we got, which were pretty good in a lot of cases.
Yeah, they were.
They were pretty good. But having the foundation of having this sort of non-biased report given back to us, no matter how hard it is, when we did our own sort of mystery shopping at the time, so we trade portfolios and do it, but it's so easy to be biased in those and to be able to make excuses for what happened. Oh, but you called after hours, and so if you would have called during the hours, and having another group come in and just to experience it as the customer, right? Like experience, not experience what I expect to happen, just to plainly experience what it feels like to be a customer. And then to have those results delivered to you in a format that, one, was really welcoming and lots of dialogue about the shops, and to have an opportunity to learn from that was such an advantage for us at that time. So I think that, one for us, we started about this as, our firm.
Hey, Kelly, real quick, your microphone glitched out. So I'm just going to let you know before you went any further, because it sounded like you're about to say something really important. I just didn't want to miss that.
Yeah.
So let me think. What was I just going to say?
Sorry, I know that's really awkward for you to go back and like, what was I saying again? But again, I just wanted to stop you before you went too far in the process.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Larry. I think as we talked about it as a group, right? Again, having that opportunity to be a customer of theirs, I think gives us the confidence to know that the information that they will learn as they're doing shops for organizations, we understand their intent behind that, and we understand how thorough it is. And we couldn't be more excited, right, to find opportunities where we can take that information and help organizations really hone their sales process and really look at it through the customer's eyes and not necessarily always only against what the organization expects them to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I definitely see this fit. I've said this, Libby, we've hosted you on a podcast, I think twice. And one thing I always say is that the mystery shops really, showcases the blind spots that people might not see. And to your point, Kelly, sometimes it can be hard to see some of those. I think it's really hard for any of us to get the feedback. I don't care if it's from on a personal side or the professional side. It can be, because it's tough, especially we're all trying our best. The senior living communities, they are stretched. They are doing their very best. And so it can be challenging, but we all want the best, for one another. And we want to see if there is a missing spot that we can really focus on how to improve that to provide a better experience. Now we spoke about, this partnership of really leaning into one another, but I'm curious to see, how does this look like in practice? How does this, exchanging of information ideas, how is that going to really play out on a day-to-day level?
Yeah.
Well,
Bridget, I was going to throw this at Bridget.
Yeah. Bridget, cool.
Well, so we've been practicing that lately. So it really depends on the customer, right? So, or the client. So for us, from my perspective, and I'm the one that does a lot of the or all of the proposals, but when we talk to our client and we hear where their opportunities are, and we see that there is an opportunity for them to utilize perhaps a service like market research or mystery shopping or something that Senior Source offers, because it's going to pair well with perhaps our, sales coaching or sales training or something that we're doing fractionally, then we will put that into our proposal as a suggestion for them. And it's because we firmly believe that service paired with our service is going to help our clients. So I'll give you an example. If we are entering into a coaching, well, I'll just take one recently. We actually just did a proposal for a client, and we're going to be doing coaching for them, sales training and coaching for them. And one of the things that we talked about is, you can spend money on sales training and sales coaching, but you also want to make sure that after you do invest with us to do the training and the coaching, that when we leave, that training and coaching is sticking. Yeah. And so, it's important perhaps on the back end to add in mystery shops, maybe a few months down the road, and then a few months after that, just to ensure that the selling skills that we're teaching are continuing to be utilized or with the customer. And that's where we would see a partnership like Senior Source coming into that proposal. So that's one example of how perhaps we would merge together into utilizing each other's services.
And definitely on the front end too, right? I mean, which I think is obvious, that, it helps get a baseline for where the skill gap is and where we should focus. So, we have always tried to incorporate, up until now, us doing our own when we are taking on a new project. Now we have people who are experts in it and have more research and more data and more technology at their hands and disposal to be able to make that process even stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just see this almost like as this cycle, which is you don't really know, and maybe this is based on my ignorance, but where does this stop, and where does it start, and where does it stop in terms of which one is guiding the other? And I feel like that's one of the areas this really works well. I'm curious, Libby, how do these really inform one another from your perspective when you bring in the sales coaching side of it, as well as your mystery shop services?
Well, we had a client recently who reached out. They wanted just some phone shops, right? They just kind of wanted to get a gauge for like how some new salespeople were doing. So we conducted some phone shops. Then we had a session with each of the salespeople. We call them "This is why it matters," which is really just to say like, hey, we have the shopper on, and the shopper kind of tells their story these are all the things that made me feel really good, make me feel comfortable. These are some places where I would wish you would have done this or that a little bit differently to give me some more assurance that I was calling the right place and that my mom was going to be okay there. So then we realized once we were on that, this is why it matters coaching call, that the teams would definitely, especially one salesperson, would really benefit from more sales coaching because she came from a nursing background. So a lot of her nursing terminology was coming through, which really wasn't as prospect focused as it probably should have been. There was just a lot of like kind of control aspects. Like she mentioned, visiting hours are, and I would put your mom here and she's not allowed to have this. Like there was just a lot of like a little bit more cut and dry. But we know that as a nurse, that background can be extremely helpful in a senior living sales role. So that's when we looped KJB in. We had a team call with the client to say like, hey, here's kind of what the current situation is. The mystery shops revealed this. We really feel that the salespeople just need some more time coaching to get them to where they need to be. And it was really just sort of seamless. KJB threw a proposal together for them to help support their staff. And it just was, from a client's perspective, it was just kind of like one call, and it was just all kind of handled and laid out nicely and neat for them. So that's kind of how we envisioned it happening. And we walked through that recently with this particular client. And that's kind of how we feel, whether it's a mystery shop feeding sales coaching or pre-coaching feeding a mystery shop or post-coaching feeding a mystery shop. It really does all kind of work together.
I love that story because I think we can all identify with that, which is we all mean well. And I can only imagine that nurse is like, no, I did my job. I explained everything, but it's in the nuance of it all. And really how to pass the information along that has make big changes in terms of how the message is received. And so I appreciate you highlighting that because that's a big part of this journey. It's such an emotionally charged journey that we have to be cautious of every conversation and every interaction we have. Now, Jess, I want to send this back to you. How do mystery shops help identify exactly where sales teams need coaching?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the dive into the skill gaps, right? How they're answering an inquiry call. What kind of preparation are they doing for a tour, right? Are they learning about the customer before they come in so that they can make it a tailored experience during their tour? What kind of discovery are they doing? Are they doing layering in their discovering to, ask additional questions? So not just one question and stop, right? How are they helping tying those solutions together to whatever that services they offer? It's how they identify all that through the mystery shops helps us know exactly where we need to train and coach to. So it's just a beautiful arrangement, in my opinion, because it just helps us know exactly where those skill gaps are to be able to focus in on helping them be better and be better with the customer.
Yeah. Can I put an exclamation mark on Jessica's statement? I think that with Libby, when you talked about the bright ideas, I'm not aware of any other mystery shop organization doing things like that. And I think that opportunity to have the prospective customer engaged in that kind of conversation gives this missing link that can be really difficult to find if you're relaying, right, like the results of a mystery shop, and it's easy for that to go maybe off track because you have this sort of, this is what I meant when I said that, or this is what I tried to say. When you have the actual prospective customer there, I think it's so much easier for that salesperson to drop the defensiveness of maybe I feel like I didn't do a good job, because what they're able to do is hear from the actual person. When you said that, this is how that made me feel.
Yeah.
And those are real feelings, right? I mean, those are real feelings. It's a real experience that they're going through. And having that information and that insight to provide to the salesperson, I think is one of the things that oftentimes, you can't always teach that in a sales training, but you can acknowledge it now through the way that you all deliver your results And acknowledging that allows us then to really think about, do we need to lean in more to empathy? Do we need to lean in more to curiosity? Do we need to lean in more to, it's okay to not sell everything in the kitchen sink in the first 5 minutes? We can, but they have a sink and they'll be happy to tell you about it. But I think that is such a differentiator for you guys. And I think that that's one of the things that's really going to fuel the coaching that we'll then be able to do when we partner with customers like that. Yeah.
Larry, can I add one more exclamation
Please.
point?
Yeah, I love that, Amy.
Like the perfect little segue here, because what Jess and Kelly added are so important. I think that through our mystery shopping reports, and then that This Is Why It Matters calls, we have always been very intentional about finding the good in a situation, in a client's performance. So thinking about those strengths and what we kind of define as shining moments, and having that conversation about those shining moments where we can say, oh, you did this so well. This was so perfect. Just take it to the next level. Just, you talked so eloquently about your team and all the things that they do to support residents. If you just introduced me to a couple of people, it would have just really hit that home. Yeah. But also, I think, so talking about the strengths, so the example that Libby shared about our client, the salesperson who was a nurse, she may have been struggling on the sales side, but the fact that she was a nurse had the potential to add so much credibility to her role. And so we can say that our shoppers, we never have an issue with a nurse being a salesperson. We love a nurse as a salesperson, but we can say that to the client on that call with KJB, which is going to give that client much more confidence in investing in that person.
Yeah.
If we can say, let her experience as a nurse shine during this sales moment, then the client is going to go, yeah, they're not going to say, oh, I'm not so sure about this person's skill set. We can build off of what her strengths are. And I feel like the client just can become more confident making that decision to invest in additional training. And it gives that salesperson a lift in their confidence and their, enthusiasm about the job. Hey, I can use all the things that I really do know to make this experience better for the prospect.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I'm glad you highlighted that, Amy, because the word that keeps coming to mind with all of your remarks is coaching. And it's not a report card to say bad, bad, good, good, bad. It's more of you have the heart behind it and saying, look, you're doing your best. We love what you're bringing. Just tweak it here. Just do this a little differently because you can do this. And that's why I think I'm going back to the coaching word, just because you ultimately want to set them up for success and not grade them, but really provide those next steps of the mystery shop says this. You need to soften this up here and provide more guidance there. This is what this group that we're partnering with brings to the table, and they can help you take that next step. And again, it kind of goes back and forth. I'm curious to see if y'all work with the same type of clients going through in the same type of situations. Has that been something that's kind of aligned as y'all looked at this partnership?
Well, I feel like I'm talking too much, but I feel like it's been really interesting that, we've been, our client base has in the last couple of years, especially really turned more to the REITs and the investors and the developers, engaging us. But obviously we're working with the operators through the work that we're doing. And so then we will inevitably kind of gain them as clients. But I think I just want to say what's been really interesting is a couple of clients that KJB has referred to us have been clients that we have worked with in the past, and continue to work with them. But KJB opened up like a new idea for how we would work together. So say, for instance, we had a client, we've done mystery shopping for them. We've done, referral source mystery shopping, but they have a home care side of their business.
Mhm.
They had never thought about coming to us for home care mystery shops.
Yeah.
But Bridget brought that up and they were like, oh, of course,
Yeah.
So we ended up taking on that work. I think we did a good job. And, it just was one more way to work with a client that had not been thought of in the past. So that was
I would
one
say too,
opportunity.
it's not just mystery shopping either that we work together on. Like we have a client that we all know the industry is just growing, right? And there's a lot of acquisition happening right now. And we have a client that's a small company, and they are, in all intents and purposes, like doubling in size this year. And it's rapid. It's like rapid acquisition happening. And so they are a company that doesn't have a lot of infrastructure in like their sales training, sales leadership like side. And so we're supporting them on that. But we can't build a sales training program for them until they have all of their communities kind of on board and really know what we're working with, right? And they came to us and said, hey, before we can put all this in place, we really need to do some work on these acquisitions that we're going to get. We need to understand what we're getting. Like we need to understand, like, the caliber of the sales teams that we're getting. And so we were able to connect them back to Senior Source, and Senior Source was able to do some, is it like market analysis, or what do you guys call it, Libby?
For that client, it was competitive analysis. We did data collection calls, to get all the important data. Yeah.
So they can understand the acquisition piece of it, right? So that then once they onboard all the acquisitions, then we'll roll out their training for them. But that's another way that we can work together. It's not just mystery shopping and coaching.
I'm glad you brought that up, Bridget. And I do feel like there's this chicken or the egg, mindset. Like it kind of works together. And I think that kind of leads me to the next thing that I really want to highlight is that I was surprised when I found out there's no financial arrangement between both groups, that there's no referral fee or anything on that front, that you're working together. I was curious to hear from your side of this, why is that important to you, to both groups, as you take on this next phase of your partnership journey?
Well, just as a quick starting point, in our mystery shop reports, we've really highlighted a lot of vendors. Amy kind of alluded to that earlier. Whatever we uncover as an opportunity for a client when we're doing a mystery shop, we recommend that those types of services and products in our report just to solve a problem. We, if everybody, all the competitors are using video in their follow-up, and our client community was the only one that didn't send a lovely little sales mail video that said, hey, thanks for coming, we're going to put sales mail in our report to say, hey, this client community was the only one who didn't. You got to kind of step that up to be on par with your competitors. Take it to the next level. Have your ED also send a follow-up email. So we'll always be kind of recommending things in our reports anyway, and we're not getting paid for these things. We just truly want to help a client get a leg up over their competition. So it just made sense that we really are just truly trying to partner together to just give our clients a great resource, get a leg up on their competition, and the sales teams gain confidence. And really, it all kind of boils down to our mission statement, which is to improve the customer experience. That's what we want to do, right? We want to make sure that family on the receiving end is being cared about, is getting helped, being guided, and that is kind of what drives everything that we do. So for us, it just made sense that this isn't like a monetary thing between us. It's really just to help our clients do their very best for the seniors and families that they serve.
Yeah, and I feel like it showcases the investment level. You could easily provide this, hand it off, and go on to the next conversation, but instead you really want to see them succeed. and by really bringing in the right partnerships and the right people to really execute that larger vision. And that takes me to my next question, which is when it comes to some of these strategy calls. One thing that I'm a big proponent of is making sure that people don't feel like they're just being handed off. And it sounds like you're willing to jump into these calls together to really, reach your, hand out and help one another to make sure the client's taken care of. Are you actively going to have joint calls with one another when it comes to some of these conversations with your clients?
I think we can have conversations on the front end of projects, like when you were asking about, how we spend our days. I mean, so much of my time is spent on the phone, and so as we, continue to build our partnership, it may be very appropriate on the front end of a call. If, say, I've received an email from a client and they've told me a little bit about the project, I may say, oh, we need to involve KJB right from the get-go. So they would be on that call with me, and then we would be helping that client determine, the path to their success. What does that look like in terms of how both companies could serve that client? Or the call may be happening at the end of a project once we've submitted it, like in the case that Libby described earlier, where we are asking KJB to come on because we have recognized that there is a need, that salesperson needs support. So, and that it's the right thing to do to make the recommendation. So we get them involved. So again, it's streamlined. The client doesn't have to make a separate call. It's just, it's like, oh, well, you need that. We'll call back later. It's no. We just want to make it easy. And it gives, I think, also KJB and anybody, we've done this with other vendor partners, where we may recommend them and get on a demo call or something like that. It just helps, I think, in this case, KJB, understand us a little bit more. How we're talking to our clients, the things that we're seeing as important, how different aspects of the project impacted our thinking. And I feel like in those situations, we are learning from each other the whole time. I mean, Libby and I say all the time, we get paid to learn. And every call we have, when we have somebody else on that call, we're learning from that somebody else, and in this case, we're learning from the best, 3 women who have lived it, eaten it, and breathed it for, many, many years. So
yeah, I appreciate you highlighting that. Yeah, it's reflect on in a world where I feel like there's terrible customer service. Everybody wants to put a technology button over everything we do, and then we're being pushed into different, call lines or reaching out. And at times we feel like we're our own IT support for a service we're using. And so I just really appreciate that, bringing the minds together to make it easier. And I think that's the part, Amy, I just want to highlight, is you saying, we just want to make that easier. So I think that's a great service that you're providing just in that front. That being said, on the proposal side, will some of this information be presented in the actual proposals to your clients as you continue to work together?
Yes, we definitely will certainly include it in our proposals as we hear the need. And I think just to piggyback on what Amy was saying, for us, I mean, it's work smarter, not harder, right? Kelly, Jess, and I, we did sit in the seat for many years. And when you're a leader in senior living, you are pulled in about 100 different directions every single day. And your to-do list it's like, it feels like it's never checked off. I mean, it's constantly like 100 items. So for me, if I had a partner, let's just say we have a coaching client, and that coaching client, maybe is going to a new market to build. And if I were the VP of sales or SVP of sales, I would say to my coaching team, hey, we're going into this new market. Do you think we can get some market research? Do you have a partner for that? And then we, for example, could set that appointment up for them. Like, we could have on our standing call, if we have a standing call with them, we could bring in Libby and Amy into that call, right? So then that SVP of sales doesn't have to go find a partner, set the call up, do all of that. We could just have them on our standing call. But it's like using your resources wisely like that. Then you don't have to do an extra task. So.
Yeah. And now I'm curious about this on the personal side. What are y'all most excited about as you really get this launched and start working together more? What's the thing that puts the smile on your face as you really think about the future?
Well, I like to just start one thing that puts a smile on my face, and the fact that this kind of happens to us pretty regularly, that Kelly, you were really a client of ours to start with, right? And now we're partnering together.
Yeah.
This happens to us very regularly, where even like our mystery shop consultants, some of them were clients of ours, and then they want to try something different, and they come and do consulting with us, and then they go and take on another role, and then they're our client again. So I mean, I just think that I just personally find that kind of cool and exciting that our reputation is very important to us. Whatever we deliver, whatever we recommend, we have like sort of personally vetted each one of those things. So I just wanted to kind of circle back to the excitement for me is that, we've like known each other, but you were a client before, and now we're partnering together. And that I think is just kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I agree, Libby. I do. Like I said earlier, it's a rare opportunity, right? To go from client to partner. And I don't know, when I think about what I'm most excited about, we talk to so many organizations who share with us what they believe their concerns are. As to why the occupancy is not growing, specifically from a customer engagement sales specific situation. And, they might have the opportunity to listen to a few phone calls. They may have a CRM where they could listen to some phone calls. But when you talk about the time, like I think Jessica or Bridget just mentioned about how much time, right, a leader actually has to sit down and listen to 50 phone calls, that time just doesn't exist. Yeah. And so, for us and really thinking about being good stewards of our clients' money, we have a better opportunity to help them to really hone in on the areas that are going to best impact their occupancy when we can have this type of thorough mystery shop done and an opportunity to talk to that shopper. And so it's not the random, hey, everybody's got problems with discovery, so let's just do discovery. Well, that would probably help everybody, but what's the probably help? But what's the core thing driving the poor discovery, right? Like what's happening in the actual conversation that's driving that? And through this type of partnership, we'll actually be able to get our hands on that information, which again allows us to really be recommending the right way forward to our clients and not just recommending sort of a generic training that we can move forward and do. I think the other part later that I'm super excited about is after you do part 1 and part 2, when Senior Source can come back in and be part 3 to validate, like, are they using what they learned? What's sticking? What didn't stick? What do we need to put more coaching in place for to get the parts that didn't stick? I think having that loop for a client, I mean, I think that the value of that is just so very high. And I'm not aware, right, of opportunities in the past where people have been able to do that, do kind of that full service piece. And I'm excited about that, right? We all want to do coaching that matters. Yeah. And it's going to give us an opportunity to really build coaching and training that matters specific to that particular challenge.
I think the reason that it's rare, Kelly, is because not everyone is as open to it. So I want to go back to what Libby was talking about in terms of, Kelly being a client of ours. So I think that speaks volumes in a couple different ways. One, it speaks volume about the quality of our work, which is great. But I think it speaks volumes about Kelly and her motivation to help and be an integral part of what is going on in the industry, because she was open to that process. She said she was not too psyched about having her 70 communities shopped, but she was open to it. She learned from it. She admitted it. She said it right here. Everybody heard her. She learned from it, but she then recognized, and she recognized the advantage of that. So then, it opened up that door for us to become partners. But then I think even the fact that the ladies of KJB said that there's a part 3 in this loop, the fact that that we're going to feed, kind of inform their training and hopefully save money and time in the long run, right? We're not the cheapest mystery shop company out there. We've never professed to be. We know that it is the quality of our work and the intent behind our work and the outcome of our work is going to drive the price. We have, all of our shoppers have industry experience. We don't, that's just always been important to us. But the fact that so we inform their work, they do amazing coaching, and then they are willing to open themselves up again to have us come back and assess how well the teams are doing after coaching, and to making sure that their coaching sticks and all of that. So that's another, to me, that speaks volumes about the confidence they have in their ability to support and help these teams. And because they have that confidence, that gives us the confidence that this partnership is the right choice and the right way to go. So.
Amy, I love that. And I, just to piggyback on that, being one of the coaches for Kelly after that shop, and I was on the results call and such, having worked for such a large organization, we had an infrastructure to be able to, coach. We had me as a VP of coaching. We had a VP of sales training. So we collaborated on the best approach. Not every organization has that. So, when you don't have that infrastructure, I mean, we know of people companies that don't have any kind of sales. It's just the regionals, right? So we had that leadership to say, now I want you to go, and I want you to look at when they ask for price at the beginning, when they ask for price at the end, what if they don't bring it up at all? So we had to look at every aspect of how our directors of sales were answering price questions. And then we coach to that. We bring up scenarios and practice, right? But not every organization has that. So, I feel like if we can make differences in those organizations, operating sales systems to enhance that experience, ultimately it's going to just enhance the experience for the customer, which is what, maybe we're idealistic, but I mean, we just really truly believe that as customers walk through, they should feel seen and heard. And that happens through our discovery and through making them feel valued, which is one of the things that we can get feedback on, right?
I think you were asking about personally, I am personally, selfishly excited about building a network. I mean, in senior living, there's a lot of contracts and referral agreements and financial relationships that are tied to like business development, right? And Kelly, Jess, and I all led business development in senior living for years. And we firmly believe that there's a place for strategic partnerships and paid relationships when they're structured ethically and transparently. That's awesome and great. But there's also a point, I think, when you have to ask yourself, like, what's truly best for your client? And this relationship, I think, is the beginning of something in my mind that's pretty awesome, because we sat on the side. We know what our client and our customers are dealing with. We understand real estate investment trust companies. We understand operators. We understand the industry. And we understand the time that's involved for our own clients to get things done. And so to be able to build a partnership like this, where they can have resources at their fingertips to just make life easier and generate the revenue they need to generate and increase our occupancy and do the things that they need to do on a daily basis, like that makes me excited. I'm also the chief growth officer, right? So if you can have good looking models and you can get your mystery shops and you can like get your sales coaching done, you can have your sales people trained. I mean, like all that's kind of important.
A little bit.
Right? Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I think everything you said, it goes back to what Jess highlighted, which is elevating the experience for the customer. And I feel like the work you do, it elevates for your clients, but that goes downstream to the families and residents themselves. And the more you can connect the dots, help them connect the dots, and just make the process more efficient, more, just easier and more human. I think this, helps everybody all together. So kudos again to all of you for that. I'm a big fan of takeaways. I love takeaways. I like wrapping, whether it's a conference session. I love taking notes. I'm curious to get from your point of view, if there's any operators or senior living organizations that are struggling with sales performance or occupancy, what's your message to them right now?
Call us.
Call us. I like that. That's good, Jess. Very direct.
Yep.
Well,
We are salespeople, Larry. We are in sales.
I love it. Yes. Yeah. But here's the thing about it: when you're confident that you can help, it's not just a sales ploy. It's seriously reaching out, and you're a lot like me, which is, look, we don't have to work directly with you, but I can be a resource. Hopefully we can provide value somehow that's going to ultimately help you, regardless if you turn our way for an actual business agreement. But I agree with you, Jess. It's just like, just reaching out for that conversation.
I think also just, to give like a little plug, we had a client reach out to us, and they have an amazing community out west, and their amazing website. I don't know how much websites cost, but if I had to guess, I'd be like, this is like $150,000 website. Like the website is amazing. And they were only getting a 4% conversion from inquiry to deposit. And they could not figure out why, because the community was beautiful. The location was amazing. The website was amazing. So they asked us to go in and take a peek around, and they wanted us to look at 2 different salespeople. So we had 2 different shoppers going in. And then it was very obvious the trends that were not happening. And so within 5 minutes of us delivering those reports, the VP of sales responded back, said, got it. I'm already on it. I'm already making changes. Right. So they were struggling for months and months, not knowing like where to focus more attention. And within 5 minutes of our report being turned in, she was like, okay, I'm on it. And then to your point, like some teams will have those layers of regional sales, VP of sales, and that infrastructure that can help deploy right away. But then a lot of teams don't, right? So our reports are also written with coaching notes in there. So literally if a regional person is stretched to the max, they can just hand over our report to the salesperson and go, here's kind of what happened. Here's some coaching notes in here. Let's talk about it when you have a minute. But the reports alone are kind of freestanding coaching, so that it gives everybody kind of a leg up to just start making improvements quickly. So I just wanted to kind of share that I'm excited about just all of this, like kind of how Amy and I have always been very intentional of how we've presented our information, wanting it to be helpful. And then this partnership just helps take all of our suggestions and like helps them come to life beyond the report that's already kind of started that learning process.
Yeah. I just real quickly, Libby, I could not agree more. And as you were talking, I'm thinking to myself, so often, right, what happens is a problem is identified, and we'll share with an organization, here's what you need to fix, right? Here's some of the things that you might want to be thinking about. I think where we really can, pour gas on that fire, right, is then helping them to understand how to practice the skills.
Right.
Yes.
Practicing is something we do not do enough of. Everybody does role playing in sales training, and then they never do it again.
Yes, you're right.
And so, being able to take your coaching notes, right, add our coaching notes, and then say, and here is what you do with it to get better at having this happen before you guys circle back around, right, the next time. And, too often, well, I'll say it this way. If you don't have specific opportunities for your sales teams to practice, asking better discovery questions, tying needs to solutions, thinking about how do we nurture an opportunity that's not quite ready to make a decision now. If you don't have opportunities for them to practice, they're practicing on your customer.
Yeah, right.
You're practicing on your customer. And the people who come to us with the seriousness of the situations that they're in don't deserve that.
Right.
They don't deserve that. And so the best salesperson in the world is even better when they practice. And I think, right, taking that really thorough assessment that you do, and then being able to share with them ways to practice with them, show them how, I really think is something that I am super excited about. I mean, I can't wait to dig into something like that. I think it'll be amazing for everyone. And again, it's a good steward of our shared client resources, because then we're not just doing sales training. We're saying, here's where they struggled. This is what we heard.
Right.
Here's how we're going to get better at it. Now let's do it. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that,
Jess
Kelly. And one thing that I really appreciate, and it really shows all of your excitement, is when you said, I can't wait to dig into this. And to me, with this partnership and all of you individually, it's not just a job. Like this is something you're invested in, that you want to see people win. You want communities to thrive, and you're excited about this, and not just for the business opportunities, but you're just like genuinely excited about the conversations you'll get to have. And I think that's incredible.
I was going to say, I know Jess was like being funny about just call us, but really, there's 5 people on this call that have been around for a very long time and have had hundreds or thousands of moments of experience in this industry. And so that's where I would leave it, is like, do call us, call any one of us, call all of us. We love being a resource. We love being curious. We love learning what's going on. We love helping people out. So use this as a resource. We love to brainstorm, and we probably can help you some way, somehow. So I would say definitely just give us a call, even if it's just to explore.
Well, and I can vouch for you on that, Bridget, just because I know all of you personally, and you're all just a resource of information, of just bouncing around ideas and having conversations. Just a better way, conversations that's going to, you don't have a specific target in mind, but let's just talk about it. Let's see how we can be a resource. So thank you all. And hey, this has been fun. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot through it. So thank you for letting me be a part of this. Last thing before we go, I'd like to hear, where can people find you to learn more? And whether it's contact information, where you are online, what conferences you're going to be at. I'd like to hear more about that side of it.
Well, let's see. So my clients who want to reach out to me could just reach out to Amy at seniorsourceconsulting.com. And we have not made a solid plan, but we think that we're going to be at Nick in the fall. So we're super excited about that. And I would really highly recommend that if you are not following Libby on LinkedIn, that you need to do that. She does an amazing job of bringing value to our posts. I'm kind of known for sharing her posts, but she truly thinks through how she can, and she uses other resources. We talk about using resources wisely. It may be something that Kelly posts, or something that, some other vendor serving the industry, or an organization, and an operator or a developer shares, and she can turn that into something that is so helpful to anyone reading that post. And we get comments all the time. I'll have a client reach out, a brand new client, and I'll say, well, how did you hear about us? And they say, well, I saw Libby's post on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh, we love that kind of for right. So it's I would definitely say you'll find value there, and you can just kind of keep up with what we're doing. But more importantly, there's always going to be some little nugget that's going to be helpful to you. So,
yeah,
for sure. And I'll say Libby does have that LinkedIn energy. I don't know how you're able to post as much as you do, comment as much as you do. You're constantly bringing people together through LinkedIn. So yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Amy.
Thank you. Yes, Libby Lauer. Follow me on Instagram.
That's right.
on LinkedIn.
And Bridget, what about with KJB Sales Consulting? Where can people, connect to learn more about what all y'all are doing?
Yeah, you can find us at kjbsalesconsulting.com, of course. You can email us at info@kjbsalesconsulting.com, and that goes to all 3 of us. And then you can also follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow Jess, Kelly, or me on LinkedIn. And we also have a KJB Sales Consulting page on LinkedIn that you can follow. So you can just follow everything. And then if you want to learn more about our curiosity-driven sales methodology, you can actually buy Kelly's book on Amazon. It's available in audio and also paperback and hardcover. But it is The More You Know, The More You Close, and you can get that on Amazon. So lots of options to find KJB.
That's awesome. Now, Kelly, do you ever do book signings at conferences? I think that would be one.
I have done book signings. We've done it with some of the clients that we've done sales training and stuff like that for, during lunch or something like that, right? We would do a little book signing. But yeah, always happy to do that, and always happy to get the stories that come from people who have read the book, right? I got hundreds of really great stories from sales, community-based sellers as I was writing the book. That makes it so great for me, right? It makes your heart so big when you hear those things. But post the book, the stories that I'm getting from people, really leveraging the information and thinking through, how do I really get to use this? How can I really get to know this person as a person and not just what's wrong with them or what's not going right with them right now? It's been overwhelming. And so I appreciate everybody who has bought the book and everybody who has sent me a note about it. But yeah, Larry, happy to do a book signing anytime.
There we go. I'm excited. So I think that's the best way to wrap this up, just because as Kelly was, mentioning that and how much she loves hearing everybody else's stories, just think about how you all are very fulfilled in what you do. And I think when it's all said and done, I think that's the best way to live life is, we invest so much time in our work, and we're 40, 50, 60 hours a week. But I love the energy that you bring, and it's definitely something that transfers to your clients and to others in this community. And I just appreciate that fulfillment, because it does get passed along to others. So thank y'all for this, and thank you for letting me be a part of this conversation. And I can't wait to see you at the future conferences this year.
Thank
Larry,
you,
thank
Larry.
you
We
so
really
much for
appreciate it.
doing this, and we appreciate your time and making our conversations so comfortable. We could have this call kind of on our own, but it was so nice for you to be facilitating this for us. We love your enthusiasm, your professionalism. So thank you for helping us kind of let where our hearts lie and help us let that shine through. So thank you so much.
Well,
Yeah.
you all shine, and it's been such a fun conversation. So looking forward to seeing you in person soon.